For over a decade, one part of Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch remained untouched, sealed off from the world, locked away in silence. But now, after 16 years, the attic has finally been opened, and what was found inside has left even longtime fans stunned. The story you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about Neverland. Join us as we dive into the secrets hidden in the most private corner of Michael Jackson's estate. The child prodigy. Michael Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana. He was the eighth of 10 children in the Jackson family. His father, Joe Jackson, worked in a steel mill and was known for being very strict and demanding. Joe wasn't just a father, he was also the manager of his children's music group. From a young age, Michael was pushed into show business. There was no room for play, rest, or childhood fun. His life was structured around rehearsals, performances, and discipline. Joe was known to be harsh. He used intense methods to make sure his children, especially Michael, were perfect on stage. Many reports suggest Joe would hit the children if they made mistakes during practice. Michael would later speak about being afraid of his father, even as an adult. Despite the pressure, Michael showed amazing talent from a very young age. He had a powerful voice, sharp dance moves, and an undeniable stage presence. By the time he was 5 years old, he became the lead singer of the Jackson 5, a group formed with his older brothers Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon. The group quickly gained attention. In 1969, the Jackson 5 signed with Motown Records, one of the biggest music labels at the time. Their first 4 singles all reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Songs like I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There made Michael a star across America. At just 11 years old, he was a household name. But with fame came great cost. While other kids were going to school, playing outside, and making friends, Michael was constantly traveling, performing, and living under a microscope. He rarely had moments of privacy or freedom. He was constantly in the spotlight. This lack of a normal childhood left a deep mark on him. Michael would later speak in interviews about how lonely he felt. He said he would often cry from exhaustion and sadness. He missed out on friendships, school dances, and carefree days. His early fame brought him riches and recognition, but it also took away his ability to grow up in a normal way. These early experiences seemed to affect Michael for the rest of his life. He became someone who deeply craved love, attention, and emotional safety. Many experts believe the constant pressure and emotional neglect he faced in his youth may have led to the strange behaviors he showed later in life. Some say it explains why he often surrounded himself with children, preferred fantasy over reality, and kept trying to recreate the childhood he never had. As Michael grew older, his desire to be perfect and to be loved only grew stronger. He never really left the stage behind. He lived for it. But the scars from his early years would follow him as he became one of the biggest stars the world has ever seen. And this was only the beginning. Michael's climb to global superstardom was just getting started. After his early success with the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson began to break away as a solo artist. He released a few solo albums in the 1970s, including Off the Wall in 1979. This album was a big hit and showed that Michael could succeed on his own. Songs like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You reached the top of the charts. The album sold millions of copies, but for Michael, it still wasn't enough. He believed he could do more. He wanted to be the biggest artist in the world. In 1982, Michael released Thriller, and everything changed. Thriller wasn't just a popular album, it became the best-selling album of all time. It featured hit after hit, including Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller. The music videos for these songs were like short films. They showed off his creativity and dancing skills in a way the world had never seen before. His performance of Billie Jean during the Motown 25 TV special, where he introduced the moonwalk, became legendary. Thriller won 8 Grammy Awards and stayed on the charts for years. It broke every record imaginable. Michael became a global icon, not just in music, but in fashion and culture too. People around the world dressed like him, danced like him, and idolized him. He followed Thriller with more successful albums, including Bad in 1987 and Dangerous in 1991. Each album came with new hits, huge tours, and groundbreaking videos. Songs like Smooth Criminal, Man in the Mirror, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Black or White kept him at the top. At the same time, people started noticing changes in his appearance. Michael's skin got lighter over the years. He said he had a skin condition called vitiligo, which causes patches of the skin to lose color. Some people believed this. Others doubted it. He also went through many surgeries on his nose, face, and jaw. Michael claimed most of the changes were due to health issues, and only a few surgeries. But over time, his look changed so much that he became almost unrecognizable from his younger self. There were also other behaviors that raised questions. He spoke softly in interviews, had an unusual laugh, and often seemed uncomfortable. He built a fantasy home called Neverland Ranch, which had amusement park rides, a zoo, and a theater. He said it was a place where he could escape from the pain of his past and be happy. He often invited children to Neverland, which he described as his way of giving them the childhood he never had. Some people saw these things as signs of eccentricity. Others thought they were signs of deep emotional struggles. Over time, it became clear that Michael lived in a world that was very different from most people's. Fame had given him everything, but it had also taken a lot from him. His world was filled with pressure, fear, and isolation. The boy who once sang ABC with a bright smile had become a man surrounded by mystery and suspicion. Even with all the fame and success, Michael didn't seem truly happy. He often spoke about feeling misunderstood and hurt by the media. He said he was a target for lies and unfair stories. He longed for love and kindness, but often found himself in controversy and conflict. Fame had made him a superstar, but it had also built a cage around him. But the fame and fantasy of Neverland would soon turn darker than anyone expected. Michael's inner circle. Michael Jackson's personal life was often hidden behind the spotlight. While millions of fans watched his every move, very few people really knew what he was like behind closed doors. His relationships with family and friends were complicated, and even though he was always surrounded by people, he often felt very alone. Michael had a difficult relationship with his father, Joe Jackson. From a young age, Michael described his father as controlling, harsh, and emotionally distant. Joe managed the Jackson 5 and pushed his sons, especially Michael, to be perfect performers. Michael later said he was scared of Joe. In interviews, he spoke about being punished during rehearsals and how his father would sometimes stand behind him with a belt while he practiced. Michael never felt safe or emotionally supported by him. Even as an adult, Michael said he couldn't be relaxed around his father. Despite this, he said he still loved him and was grateful for the opportunities Joe created for the family. On the other hand, Michael was very close to his mother, Katherine Jackson. He often called her the guiding light in his life. She was calm, loving, and supportive. She encouraged his faith and kindness. Katherine was one of the few people Michael trusted completely. He also had a close relationship with his younger sister, Janet Jackson. They shared a bond through music and childhood experiences. Janet once said Michael was very protective of her and that they shared private jokes and fun times, even when things were hard. Despite their busy careers, they remained in touch and spoke often. As he grew older and more famous, Michael surrounded himself with a small group of friends, many of whom were also celebrities. One of his closest friends was actress Elizabeth Taylor. She understood the pressure of fame because she had been a child star too. Their bond was built on mutual respect and trust. Elizabeth defended Michael during tough times and often supported him publicly. Michael once said she was like a sister to him. Another famous friend was child actor Macaulay Culkin, known for Home Alone. Michael and Macaulay became close in the early 1990s. They spent time together at Neverland Ranch, played video games, and shared sleepovers. Michael said he felt comfortable around children because they didn't judge him or expect anything. Macaulay later defended Michael, saying their friendship was innocent and kind. Other celebrity friends included Diana Ross, Brooke Shields, and Liza Minnelli. Many of these friends were people Michael had known for years. Still, even with these friendships, Michael often seemed isolated. He didn't go out much, avoided large events, and rarely let new people into his life. People close to him said he felt safest in private, away from the media and the public eye. Michael's world may have looked full of love and friendship from the outside, but inside, it was often lonely and quiet. The people he trusted were few, and he held on to them tightly. But the quiet of Neverland would soon be broken by the sound of growing controversy. Welcome to Neverland! In 1988, Michael Jackson bought a large property in Santa Barbara County, California. He named it Neverland Ranch, inspired by the magical land in the story of Peter Pan, where children never grow up. For Michael, Neverland was more than just a home. It was a world he created to escape from reality. It had everything a child could dream of: an amusement park, a zoo, a train station, a movie theater, and even a candy shop. He didn't want it to look like a normal house. He wanted it to feel like a fairy tale. Michael spent millions of dollars to build and decorate Neverland. It covered about 2,700 acres of land. He brought in Ferris wheels, carousels, bumper cars, and roller coasters. There were statues of children, fairy tale creatures, and angels all around the property. The zoo included elephants, giraffes, llamas, tigers, and chimpanzees, some of which became famous, like his pet chimp named Bubbles. The train station was designed like an old-fashioned Disneyland-style depot, with a red steam engine train that went around the property. The movie theater had 50 seats and a private balcony where Michael could watch films with his guests. Everything was carefully designed to feel magical and safe. Staff said Michael would often dress up as Peter Pan or a ringmaster when entertaining children at the ranch. For Michael, Neverland was more than a home. It was his version of happiness, far from the harsh world that had judged him since childhood. Many people believe that Neverland was Michael's way of reclaiming the childhood he never had. He spoke often about how he missed out on playing with friends, going to school dances, and having a normal life. From the time he was 5 years old, he was performing on stage and living under pressure. As an adult, he created a place where he could finally enjoy the innocence he lost. Psychologists have used the term Peter Pan syndrome to describe this behavior, when someone refuses or is unable to grow up emotionally. Michael never officially admitted to this idea, but his actions and words seem to support it. He often said he felt like a child inside, and he wanted to be surrounded by laughter, fun, and innocence. However, some people looked at Neverland differently. They questioned why a grown man would build an amusement park at home, especially one that seemed so focused on children. Over time, critics began to ask whether Neverland was simply a fantasy land or something more disturbing. This became even more serious when children later came forward with claims of abuse. To these critics, Neverland wasn't just about reclaiming lost innocence. It became a symbol of secrecy, power, and manipulation. The ranch itself was extremely private. Few outsiders were ever allowed to see it fully. The property was guarded at all times with gates, fences, and tight security. There were more than 50 staff members working there, including cooks, cleaners, zookeepers, security guards, and personal assistants. Guests had to be approved before entering, and their movements were often closely watched. Some reports suggest that parts of the ranch had hidden rooms, private areas, and security cameras everywhere. There were places where Michael could disappear for hours without being seen. Former staff members said the ranch ran like a well-controlled kingdom, with Michael as its ruler. Inside, the house was filled with antiques, art, toys, and memorabilia. There were entire rooms filled with dolls, child-size mannequins, and Disney items. It felt like a museum created by and for a child. To some people, it was magical. To others, it was unsettling. Neverland Ranch became one of the most famous and mysterious homes in the world. For fans, it was a symbol of Michael's creativity and heartbreak. For critics, it raised questions that were hard to ignore. But the real darkness surrounding Neverland wouldn't come to light until accusations and investigations began to take over the headlines. Scandals began to surface. By the early 1990s, Michael Jackson was at the top of the entertainment world. He was one of the most famous people alive. His albums had sold millions, his concerts were sold out across the globe, and he had fans in every country. But everything changed in 1993 when serious allegations against him came to light. For the first time, the world began to see a different side of the superstar, one surrounded by controversy and suspicion. In August 1993, a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler accused Michael Jackson of child sexual abuse. Jordan's father, Evan Chandler, was a dentist in Los Angeles. He had grown close to Michael after Michael developed a friendship with Jordan. According to reports, Michael spent a lot of time with Jordan. He would often have sleepovers with him, take him on trips, and shower him with gifts. The friendship started to worry Evan, who began asking questions. Soon after, Jordan told a psychiatrist that Michael had touched him inappropriately. The psychiatrist was legally required to report the claim to authorities, and an investigation began. The Los Angeles Police Department and the Department of Children and Family Services opened separate investigations. Michael denied all the accusations. He said he had never harmed any child and that he was being targeted for money. The case became a media sensation. News cameras followed every move, and headlines painted Michael as either a victim of extortion or a criminal hiding behind fame. During the investigation, police raided Neverland Ranch. They looked for any evidence that could support Jordan's claims. They took photos of Michael's body, including private areas, because Jordan had reportedly described details of Michael's anatomy. According to Michael's lawyers, the descriptions did not match. Still, the damage to his image had begun. In January 1994, Michael agreed to a financial settlement with the Chandler family. Reports said he paid around $23 million. The settlement stated that it was not an admission of guilt. It simply meant the case would be dropped in civil court. However, the criminal investigation remained open. In the end, prosecutors decided not to press charges, mostly because Jordan refused to testify. Without his testimony, the case could not move forward. Michael said he settled the case to avoid a long and painful court battle. He claimed he wanted to focus on his health and music. At the time, he was also dealing with stress and had started taking pain medication to cope. He later went into rehab to deal with that problem. But in the eyes of many people, the damage had already been done. Some believed he was innocent and had been unfairly targeted for money. Others believed the payout was a sign that he had something to hide. The scandal left a deep scar on Michael's public image. For years, people had seen him as a musical genius and a kind-hearted artist. Now, some began to view him with suspicion. Talk show hosts, comedians, and newspapers made him the subject of constant jokes. The nickname Wacko Jacko, which had already followed him because of his strange behavior, became even more common. Michael's career also took a hit. While he still had millions of fans, his sales dropped, and some brands distanced themselves from him. Sponsors hesitated to work with him, and television networks became more cautious about airing his content. Even though he was never convicted of any crime, the court of public opinion had already begun its own trial. From that point on, Michael lived under a cloud of doubt. He kept making music and performing, but the joy that once surrounded his career seemed dimmed. The innocence that had once been part of his image was now replaced by controversy. And unfortunately for Michael, the worst was still to come. And when a second boy came forward a decade later, the scandal exploded into a full courtroom battle the world would never forget. The 2005 trial. In 2003, 10 years after the first scandal, Michael Jackson was again accused of child sexual abuse. This time, the accuser was a 13-year-old boy named Gavin Arvizo. Gavin had cancer, and Michael had invited him to Neverland Ranch as part of his efforts to help sick children. The two had appeared together in a documentary called Living with Michael Jackson, which aired in February 2003. The documentary, made by British journalist Martin Bashir, showed Michael holding hands with Gavin and talking openly about sharing his bed with children. Michael said he never did anything sexual, and he believed sleepovers were innocent and loving. But many viewers found the statements disturbing. The documentary caused a media storm, and soon after, Gavin and his family accused Michael of molesting him. This time, Michael was arrested and charged with multiple counts, including child molestation, giving alcohol to a minor, and conspiracy to commit child abduction. The case went to trial in 2005. It became one of the biggest and most publicized celebrity trials in history. The courtroom in Santa Maria, California, was surrounded by media every day. Fans camped outside. Protesters held signs. Every major news channel covered the case live. It felt like a movie, but it was real, and the stakes were high. Michael faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison if convicted. Inside the courtroom, the trial was dramatic. Gavin Arvizo took the stand and claimed that Michael had touched him inappropriately and given him alcohol. His younger brother also testified and supported his claims. The prosecution brought in other witnesses who said they had seen inappropriate behavior. They even tried to bring up the earlier Jordan Chandler case, though the court placed limits on how much they could discuss it. Michael's defense team fought back hard. They argued that Gavin's family had a history of making false claims against celebrities and trying to get money. They said the documentary had been edited in a misleading way. Michael's lawyers also brought in celebrity witnesses, including Macaulay Culkin, who said he had spent many nights at Neverland and was never touched. Culkin strongly defended Michael and said he had only seen kindness and fun. The trial lasted 4 months. Every day was full of new twists, strange stories, and intense emotions. The pressure took a toll on Michael, who looked weak, tired, and sometimes ill as he arrived at court. He missed one day of court due to hospitalization, which only added to the drama. He was supported by his family, including Catherine and his siblings, who showed up to stand by him. On June 13, 2005, the jury reached its decision. After deliberating for a week, they found Michael Jackson not guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Fans outside cheered and cried. Michael was free. But even though he had been acquitted, his reputation was never the same again. Many people still believed the accusations. Others thought he had been unfairly targeted because of his fame. For Michael, the trial had been exhausting and humiliating. He had spent millions of dollars on legal fees, and the stress had nearly broken him. After the trial, he never returned to Neverland Ranch. He said it no longer felt like home. Michael left the United States and lived in places like Bahrain and Ireland for a time. He stayed out of the spotlight and avoided interviews. He no longer made music like he used to, and he rarely performed. The man who had once ruled the stage with unmatched energy had been drained by scandal and suspicion. Neverland, once his dream world, was left empty and quiet. It was later reported that parts of it had been dismantled, and the property eventually changed owners. The fairy tale was over. Michael Jackson had survived the trial, but he had lost something far greater: his public trust, his emotional safety, and the magic that once surrounded his name. But even in silence, the past wasn't finished with him, and what lay hidden in Neverland would bring his story back into the headlines once more. Leaving Neverland. In the years following Michael Jackson's death, new allegations and revelations continued to surface, reigniting debates about his legacy. Two major developments: the investigative reports by The Sun and the release of the documentary Leaving Neverland, played significant roles in shaping public perception. British tabloid The Sun published a series of articles that claimed to uncover disturbing materials found at Jackson's Neverland Ranch. These reports alleged the discovery of items such as child-themed paraphernalia, explicit images, and personal effects that raised questions about Jackson's private life. The headlines were sensational, aiming to capture public attention and suggest a hidden, darker side to the pop star's persona. In 2019, HBO aired the documentary Leaving Neverland, directed by Dan Reed. The film focused on the accounts of Wade Robson and James Safechuck, who alleged that Jackson sexually abused them during their childhood. Their testimonies were graphic and emotional, detailing the alleged grooming and abuse they experienced. The documentary received critical acclaim, winning the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special. However, it also faced backlash from Jackson's fans and estate, who vehemently denied the allegations and criticized the film as one-sided. The release of Leaving Neverland led to a significant cultural divide. While some viewers were moved by the survivors' stories and called for a re-evaluation of Jackson's legacy, others defended the pop star, questioning the credibility of the accusers and the documentary's motives. Jackson's estate filed a $100 million lawsuit against HBO, claiming the network violated a non-disparagement clause from a 1992 contract. The legal battle highlighted the ongoing tension between preserving Jackson's legacy and addressing the serious allegations against him. What was found in the attic? In recent years, Neverland Ranch underwent changes in ownership and restoration efforts. During these processes, previously unexplored areas of the property, including the attic, were accessed. The opening of the attic after 16 years led to the discovery of items that reignited discussions about Jackson's private life and the allegations against him. Reports claimed that the attic contained disturbing materials, including child-themed items, photographs, tapes, and personal effects. Some of these items were alleged to be disguises or props that Jackson used during his interactions with children. The nature of these discoveries raised questions about whether such evidence had been previously ignored or deliberately concealed during past investigations. Former staff members, law enforcement officials, and experts reacted to the attic's contents with a mix of shock and concern. Some insiders questioned how these items had remained undiscovered for so long, while others speculated about potential cover-ups or oversights during earlier searches of the property. The revelations prompt renewed calls for transparency and accountability in handling allegations of abuse, especially involving high-profile individuals. The media has played a huge role in shaping this story. While some journalists have tried to investigate fairly, many others have chased sensationalism. Michael Jackson was a headline magnet, and anything tied to his name could draw massive attention. That's why every new discovery, especially something as dramatic as an unopened attic in Neverland, raises the question: are we getting real answers or just more drama to feed the myth? In the end, the Neverland attic adds a final eerie twist to the mystery that Michael Jackson left behind. It doesn't give closure. Instead, it opens up more questions about what we believe, what we want to believe, and whether the truth will ever really be known. For some, it's one more reason to doubt him. For others, it's just more noise in a story that's already too crowded with opinions. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story like this.